Hey guys, in last weeks or months, I've heard a lot about this relatively new gambit they call Lucchini Gambit. I studied the lines and they are a little crazy and fantastic, and it looks like a really effective tricky line. So I thought there was good stuff here to make a video about Lucchini Gambit. So without further delay, let's get started. So we can play Lucchini Gambit when our opponent plays Giuoco Pianissimo. So after e4, we play e5, and after knight f3, we can play knight c6. Bishop c4, we will play bishop c5, and if your opponent plays d3 here, then we will be able to play Lucchini Gambit. The most normal move in this position for white is probably c3, but well, when we analyze the position, we can see that d3 is also extremely normal, so you can see this move more or less often. So in this position, we will play this surprising move, f5, and we're playing here Lucchini Gambit. And the idea here is that we are challenging white's central pawn and probably getting some activity for the middle game with the f5 probably half open. But also probably the main point here is that there is this move very tempting for white, knight g5, that seems to be almost winning because the knight is going to f7, the queen is coming to h5. So it looks like the move f5 has been a blunder, and many players will like the move knight g5, which is not really as strong as it seems, and then we will have many good opportunities and tricks in that line. So the best move for white here is actually just ignore the move f5 and just castle and play a normal middle game here. We can continue knight f6, and it's going to be a position slightly better for white, but always very interesting and dynamic, as we have pressure in the center, and probably we can play later d6, queen e7, maybe bishop e6, and even castle queenside, or in some positions also castle kingside. So it's going to be more or less fine, even when white is a little better. Also, other alternatives we need to take a quick look at are pawn takes pawn or bishop takes knight. They're not creating any real problem for black, but they are more or less tempting for white. So, for example, after pawn takes pawn, we just play d5. Maybe the idea for white is that after bishop b5, they can get the pawn on e5, but this is not a real problem. In this gambit, we're going to prioritize development over material. So we're just going to play knight e7. We ignore the capture of the pawn. Even if white takes that pawn, we just castle. And this position is surprisingly better for black. Even when we have 2 pawns down, we are actually better. I mean, it's not only compensation. The compensation is more than enough here. The idea here is that we are getting one of the 2 pawns back very soon, and then we will have enough compensation for 1 pawn down, like enough activity. A lot of pressure here on f2. Our 2 bishops are already developed and in good positions, and our knight and queen can improve a lot very easily. So we don't have to worry that much about e takes f5. The other line is bishop takes g8. Here we have some tricks. For example, we can take, or we need to take the bishop, and then again, this is very tempting, knight g5, clearing the line for the queen, but well, this is not really a problem. The best move for black in this position is g6, and we are actually better here. The idea is that we are controlling h5 so the queen doesn't create any problem. The trick here is that if they capture the pawn, we are getting material up here with a fork. So we have this move here, queen h4, attacking both knight and f2, and black is clearly winning here, decisive advantage. But we need to highlight something in this position after g6. If white takes this pawn on f5, we shouldn't recapture. If we recapture, we're in trouble after queen h5, so we shouldn't fall for that. Instead of that, we play d5 here, and then we are trying to develop very quickly, and if we do that, we're going to be much better in the middle game. So let's get into the most challenging and interesting line in this Lucchini Gambit. Is the main line of the gambit of the trick when your opponent plays here knight g5. Apparently we are in trouble here, but well, not really. Here we have this move, very strong, and it is this f4. When we play f4, we're making sure the bishop is not playing. We are improving our bishop. Our queen is also ready to go over there. And also the pawn is getting a lot of space and can actually help a lot in the attack in some positions. So f4 is perfect, and well, white should play here knight f7, continuing with the idea of the knight when it went to g5. So knight f7, and here we have this move, queen h4. And we're studying checkmate on f2. So queen e2, queen f3 are not really working. We can play knight d4 with tempo and improving pieces, and also threatening c2. So probably there are two lines here for white, and they are castling and g3. When they play g3, well, many weaknesses on light squares. We're gonna take advantage of this in the next moves. So we can play here queen h3. The queen is infiltrating over g2. They might take our rook now, as there's no a clear threat, since after queen e2 they can play rook f1 and they're defending more or less. But in this position there is a very strong and special move for black. Remember, we were saying some time earlier that in these positions, in Lucchini Gambit and most of the gambits, we're gonna prioritize development over material. So we don't care that much about one pawn or not even one piece. We care about making sure our pieces are playing and putting pressure. So here there is this move, pretty move, d5, and the idea is that suddenly the bishop is going to be a key piece in the attack. So let's say they take the pawn on d5. Here we can play knight d4. The lines are really, really complicated here, but it looks like there's no defense for white. It looks like whatever white plays here, they might be lost. Well, after knight d4, the idea is that we have like 3 minor pieces and a queen attacking, many weaknesses on light squares, and also many threats, and also white pieces are in pretty bad positions, not doing anything. So knight d4 is just winning. The main threat here is bishop g4. Let's say a normal development move, just to understand what can happen. After knight c3, we can just play bishop g4 here. We're getting the queen, and this is winning. We're playing knight f3 in the next. Something interesting, I mean, an interesting position is if white plays knight e2, we have knight f3, and this is a nice checkmate. The other line is when instead of g3, white castles kingside. This move is probably a little more logical and probably a little more frequently played. And in this position, we can play this move knight f6. The idea is that we want to connect the knight with queen and bishop and create a lot of pressure on these squares f2 and h2. The right move for white here is going to be knight d2, but this is not easy to find. So almost for sure, I mean, the most played move here is going to be knight takes rook. Knight d2 is more or less fine, and there is that if we can play knight g4, they can play knight f3, and we don't get too much this time. So probably after knight d2, we should play rook f8, make sure our rook is fine, and also some threats with rook takes knight. This position is more or less equal, but well, the idea here is that if instead of knight d2 they take the rook, well, here we have this move knight g4, and this is going to be winning for black. This position is already decisive advantage here. The lines are really beautiful. For example, if they play rook e1, we have a nice mate in 3, like queen takes pawn, queen u1, and knight f2. This is a smothered mate. But also, for example, we can highlight other lines. If they play h3, this is a little more complicated, but still clearly winning. We can just capture here on f2 with our knight, and they need to take the knight with the rook. If they don't take it, like, for example, if they play like queen e2 here, we can just mate with knight takes pawn, double check, so the king needs to move, and then knight g5, and this is just checkmate. So after knight f2, they need to capture, and then we will capture with the queen. The king needs to come to the h file, and the attack here is decisive. The key idea in this position is that we need to involve more pieces in the attack. So we are attacking with queen, bishop, and pawn, but it's clearly not enough. So we need reinforcements here. And one more time, there is this key move we have seen in some lines in Lucchini Gambit, and it is this fantastic d5. The idea is that the bishop is joining the attack with tempo, and now the attack is decisive. Observe, now we have queen, 2 bishops, and also the pawn is an important piece here, and white king is pretty much discovered. I mean, it's totally unprotected. White pieces are not helping too much. Observe, the queen going to h5 doesn't create any real problem for black, as this queen needs to cover g1 because there is a checkmate threat over there. So that's the situation here. White is lost. For example, if white plays a quick development here, ignoring the bishop, and play knight c3, trying to defend very soon and develop very soon here, well, we have some ways to win. There's this line with a forced mate in 8 or 9 moves. We can start with queen g3 check and then sacrifice the bishop here on a3. And even if white defends, we sacrifice again because we know we have check on h4. And then we have another check over here. In the end, we're going to extract white king outside. And when the king is here on h4, we will have checkmate e1 with the bishop. And this is a nice position. Checkmate with the king on h4. But also, there is this way to win. I think it's just too fantastic, so we need to mention it, even when we have that line with the forced mate. I think this is a line we need to talk about. One more time, the light squares bishop is going to be a key piece in this position. And we can play this beautiful move, bishop g4. And the idea here is that the bishop is hanging, but white cannot really take it because they will receive checkmate in 1. So if the queen takes the bishop, we have queen g1 checkmate. And if the pawn takes the bishop, now the file is open, so we can play queen h4. The bishop covers g1 one more time, checkmate. Other than that, the queen cannot move too much. I mean, f1, e1, or g1 are covered. Queen h1 doesn't make sense. You have queen g3 checkmate. And there's nothing else here. So this is just winning for black. If you guys have any question, let me know in the comments. If you want to learn not 1, but 3 easy ways to refute the Stafford Gambit, check out this interesting video. I'm sure you will enjoy it and it will help you a lot. Thank you so much, guys. Like, subscribe. See you on the next.